Welcome. This is module 2.3, technical aspects of a cleanup campaign. This module will clarify the technical, environmental, economic, and safety aspects that must underpin the planning, design, and implementation of cleanup campaigns. Before the start of works, BRA must understand the details on identification of illegal dump sites, techniques of waste removal, and safety measures. Municipal waste is an heterogeneous matrix that includes very different materials, products, and items. In our mind, municipal waste is composed of organic matter, plastic, metal, glass, and other general materials. Among these materials, there may be some that are dangerous to human health and require particular caution in handling them. These are called hazardous wastes, and they include materials containing asbestos, liquid waste, potentially infectious hospital waste, sharp and stinging waste, and human and or animal excreta. Another important aspect is the possible presence of materials in the dump site having an economic value, as, for instance, metal waste. In this case, the recovery of that valuable material is advisable from both economic and environmental perspectives. Dump sites can consist of piles of abandoned waste on horizontal surfaces, as the one shown in this picture, or along slopes, such as, for example, roadsides, or in depressed areas, for instance, in pits and depressions in the ground. It is recommended to avoid waste removal in periods of heavy rain, because in this case, there is a high risk of landslides. And it is also recommended to avoid waste removal when there is a probable high presence of methane in a dump site due, for instance, to a high content of organic matter. In this case, there is a risk of explosions. That's the reason why you shouldn't remove waste in this case. There are different possibilities to remove waste from a dump site. There are, for instance, mechanical means that can be used. A small excavator and a small skid steer loader are able of handling 7 cubic meters per hour of waste each. And if they are used together, their productivity rises to 10 cubic meters per hour each. Their rental cost is $90 per hour. This cost includes driver, fuel, and other consumables. The productivity of a cleanup worker is much lower compared to the mechanical means. The productivity for a worker is 1 cubic meter per hour for a man and 0.6 cubic meter per hour for women. In the case of manual waste removal, the workers must be organized in one or more teams made of 2 or 3 components. The use of manpower is cheaper than the use of mechanical means. The cost, in this case, is equal to $1 per hour. For the removal of the dump site, 1 or more dump trucks must be used to haul the waste to the municipal disposal site. The rental cost can range from $17 per hour for a 5 cubic meter truck to $110 per hour for a 10 cubic meter truck. These costs include driver, fuel, and other consumables. A 10 cubic meter truck is preferable, but its accessibility to dump site is not always possible. In that case, smaller trucks must be used. Now we can see the technical instructions to plan, design, and implement the removal of dump sites, as well as estimate the intervention cost. The first step is the census of dump sites that are present in the district. The following characteristics of the dump site of each dump site must be identified: the location, indicated by GPS coordinates, the type of dump site, so if the dump site is above ground, below ground, or if it is a slope dump site, the dimensional characteristics, for instance, the height of the heap, the base area, the estimated volume, the types of the waste that are present in the dump site, with the indication of kinds of waste that require particular attention in handling them, such as, for instance, the hazardous waste, so the materials containing asbestos, liquid waste, potentially infectious hospital waste, sharp and stinging waste, human and or animal waste, bulky and heavy waste. Another important characteristic that must be identified is the accessibility by large trucks to the dump site, and also the need to occupy, even partially, the road or sidewalk to set up the work site. Here you can see an example of a table that can be used to collect this information. In the columns, for instance, you can read the coordinates, the type of dump site, the area, the maximum height of the pile, the estimated volume, the kind of waste that is present in the dump site, if the dump site is accessible by large trucks, and if the road occupation of the work site is necessary. The second step is the classification of the identified dump sites. A first kind of dump site is small dump sites. In this case, dump sites are smaller than 30 cubic meter volume, and they can be removed manually. Actually, this maximum volume value is indicative, as during the implementation of the project, VRA might decide to manually remove even larger dump sites in order to employ more manpower. Then we have medium dump sites, which have a volume between 30 and 400 cubic meter. In this case, it is preferable to remove waste by mechanical means. This category includes also smaller dump sites that still require the use of mechanical equipment. The third type of dump site are large dump sites, in which there is a consistent presence of biodegradable organic waste, such as, for instance, food waste, whose height and volume are respectively higher than 4 meter and 400 cubic meter. In this case, the possible presence of high quantity of biogas and therefore methane that are generated by the decomposition, degradation of the organic matter can lead to excluding the removal of waste as a precaution to avoid possible explosion given by the contact between the methane and the oxygen that is present in the air. The third and the fourth steps are the estimation of the intervention time, the necessary equipment, and the estimation of the intervention cost. These two steps are discussed in the next module. The fifth step is the carrying out of site operation. At the beginning of the activity, the work site area must be delimited, for example, by using mobile barriers, and pedestrian and vehicular access gates must be placed. Once the work site area is ready, in the case of small dump sites, the workers check if there is any waste that requires special precautions in handling it and begin to remove it. Eventual stored waste in the dump site must be examined carefully. Container markings indicating dynamite, picric acids, or other dangerous materials require immediate attention. If in the dump site there is waste containing asbestos, it must be handled and bagged with particular care to avoid the dispersion of the fibers into the environment. Any excrement and/or hospital waste must be bagged, absolutely preventing any contact with the help of shovels, pliers, and/or forks. In all waste removal operations, workers must always wear the personal protective equipment provided to them. I mean goggles, masks, gloves, safety footwear, and high visibility uniform. Details on personal protective equipment that must be used by the workers are discussed in Module 2.5. Once the hazardous waste removal is complete, the workers will continue the removal of ordinary municipal waste by bagging it and bringing the bags to the temporary storage area until all waste is removed. If the waste pile is higher than 2 meters, it is necessary to use a small excavator that picks up the waste from the top of the pile and places it on the ground, where the workers can bag it manually. A small excavator is also necessary when the waste is scattered on a very inclined surface, for instance, the embankment of a roadbed, and when the waste is placed in depressed areas or pits in the ground. In this case, the small excavator is used to avoid that workers can fall. In medium-sized dump site, as we said before, waste removal occurs by mechanical means, such as excavators and wheel loader, in order to increase the waste removal rate. It may happen that during the excavation, small fires may arise from the dump site. In this case, use of water to extinguish fires should be avoided, while isolation and smoothing with soil is preferred. In both small and medium-sized dump sites, once the waste has been removed, if the waste was in contact with the soil, for instance, if the dump site was not placed on a paved area, it is advisable to remove the first 5 to 10 centimeter layer of soil, which is probably contaminated, and replace it with clean soil. Once the operation is completed, it is possible to remove the work site fence and road signs if they are present. To avoid the clean area being used again in the future as a place for illegal dumping of waste, it is advisable to put a sign indicating the prohibition of unloading waste and warning citizens that offenders will be fined according to the current legislation and the municipal bylaws. Thank you for your attention.